doesn't have round lights, so it's therefore not a 911. It's not air cooled, it's not a 911. So welcome to my video on, if you listen to everybody, the world's worst Porsche 911 ever. So like me, growing up, you would have probably had 4 posters on your bedroom wall. One would have been maybe a Ferrari Testarossa, Ferrari F40, you'd have definitely had a Lamborghini Countach, and you would have probably had a Porsche 911 on your bedroom wall. So I had a 930, a blue one, which I loved that car, which had always made me want Porsche and Ferraris. A little bit of history of mine with Porsches. I had my first Porsche was actually a 944 Lux called Toppy. Which was black. It was an 83, it was a 2.5 if I remember. It was my first Porsche, I loved it. I then bought a 930 Carrera, which was okay. I then had a 930 Turbo, which I loved. It was really, the Cockerel. It was really quick, except for when you drove it in the wet, and then all the rumours about 911s being a bit of a handful came true, and I actually flipped mine over a barrier onto the other side of the dual carriageway. I then had a 964, which is the Porsche everyone seems to forget. I had a Carrera 4 in 93. It was okay, wasn't brilliant, it was a bit boring. Then I had 2 993s, which I loved. I had a Targa and a Carrera 4, great cars. You know, I think they're really pretty looking from the back, not so sure at the front, you know, considering people complain about these. Cockerel again. And then I had a 996, my first 996, I actually bought by accident. I had a Maserati 3200. Looked great, sounded amazing, was lovely inside, but was awful to drive and just didn't like it at all. So I ditched it in after a month and a half, bought a brand new Carrera 4, 996, loved that car, used it every day, and then got rid, and then had another 996, this Carrera 2 later on, which was okay. Then I bought this one a few months ago from a friend of mine who'd had the car about a year, and then I knew the previous owner on that. This one's 2000 or 2001, can't remember. It's done 80,000 miles. It's Carrera 4 convertible, and yeah, it's a great car. Okay, so let's start with some of the reasons why apparently this is not a 911 and one of the worst 911s. So let's start with the elephant in the room, the air-cooled versus water-cooled. I guess Porsche made a decision for a reason. Having owned air-cooled 911s before, you could have some issues with them. Probably got the same with water-cooled. I honestly don't know why that was such an issue for people, just maybe for the purists. Then we have the headlamps at the front. If you're not buying a car because it hasn't got the right shape headlamps, then probably shouldn't be buying a car. And then we have the IMF problem. So yeah, there was loads of stories about them having big failures. I read some articles somewhere that it's actually 1 out of 10 that fail. My advice is get it checked. You can check with the oil change on some of them as well. You can also just get it remedied in the first place. Okay, so I think, you know, £1,000 compared to the cost of a new engine and a 911 is probably worth doing, and it could happen with any car as well. What else do they say about 911s that don't make this one a 911? Oh, the interior. Let's have a look at the interior. I heard lots and lots of people on lots and lots of forums say that it wasn't as good as the 993 interior. Here's the thing, having owned 2 993s, yeah, they were okay, but they were pretty simple, they were pretty basic, nothing to write home about, and this interior is nice. I honestly don't see what's wrong with it. In fact, the wider body Carrera 4s have an even nicer interior. This one's functional, not much to break in it, it's worn well. This car's done 80,000 miles, it's being used and abused by my children mostly. As you can see, we can get 2 child seats in the back. There's 4 of us in it, then yeah, we don't go very far in it. But if it's me and the girls, I can swap the seats around, put one in the front, and actually it works really well, and the girls love it. I'll put a link in the video of the seats that we managed to get hold of, because they are quite different. This particular car is doing well. What's wrong with it? Oh yes, they fly off. So one is down on the floor because it's broken, because it flew off, and the other one last week flew off and got driven over by another car. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. Word of warning, I've got the hard top for this, which I never use. Had an issue that you don't use the roof. The last owner didn't use the roof much at all. It actually got stuck down and had to go through various people to be fixed and cost quite a lot of money. Not down to me, but just a word of warning that they're quite fiddly, and I've never seen such a complex roof mechanics on a car. Yeah, that's about it. It's a Porsche 911. It still carries a lot of character from the last ones, and I actually don't hate it. I don't really understand why people dislike it so much. So why would I tell you to buy one? I still think they're really cheap. They were really cheap a few years ago. Some were well under the 10k mark. You can still pick up a few under 10k, but they're going to be a little bit ropey. Maybe you need to spend some money on them. You know, a good one, £15,000, low miles, full Porsche history or full kind of specialist history. It's a great all-round car. It can be used. You can do high miles in them. I'd probably go for manual over Tiptronic. I just had a friend who's replacing their Tiptronic box on theirs, and it's costing a lot of money. I personally prefer the wide body 911 that they did. Obviously this isn't one, but I prefer that. I just think it's aged well and it looks good. And what else would I look out for? Yeah, I mean, I guess the history on them and how well they've been looked after. I've seen a few that have had bad tyres on them, and by the way, go for a Carrera 4 if you can, put decent tyres on it because it will need it and chew through them. And I just think there's plenty to pick from as well, and these can only go up. If you look at 993s right now, I was looking at the classifieds this morning, 45k, £40,000 for a fairly good one. They're just going to keep going up. They're like the 930s and 964s. They just keep pushing. And as you'll find with most cars that are now hitting classic status, the other ones become out of reach of some other people, pushes the market up on the others. And it's a great car. It sounds fantastic. I just enjoy driving it. It is good to drive. I seriously can't recommend them enough, and I don't understand why they had such a bad time in the history. You read so many forums and it's so bad. My kind of thing on news and information you read on the internet is I really think we like to be negative, and I think you wouldn't do half the things you would do in the world if you read stuff on forums. When I first bought a TVR Cerbera about 14, 15 years ago, I was literally put off by forums. I then ignored it, went and got one, best thing I did. With these, you just got to use some common sense, be quite smart about it, don't read everything that's negative. Half the people who write the stuff haven't even owned one or driven one, and enjoy the ownership. It will, unplug the battery or be able to cut the battery off, because this one particular seems to run the battery flat. But yeah, get one, and I don't think it is the worst Porsche or even Porsche 911 that's ever come out.